At this time, I would like to introduce you to Alla Shemenko. Alla was born in northern Russia. After high school, she worked as an electric technician in the local electric laboratory I tried. Sorry. I told her I would try really hard. Energo Company from 1982 to 1987, and from 1992 to 2000, Alla worked at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. First as a clerk in the Document Control Center, an administrative specialist in radiation protection, environmental, health and safety department, and later as human resources specialist, staffing engineer, and training center specialist. In 2000, she immigrated to the U.S. Alla rejoined the nuclear industry in 2007 at GE Hitachi Nuclear Energy as a training coordinator and administrative specialist, engineering support specialist, and configuration management document control specialist. Alla joined NuScale Power in 2014 as a document control specialist. Her education includes a bachelor's in management from Interregional Personal Management Academy in Ukraine, the professional training specialist diploma from Industrial Pedagogical College in Kazakhstan, and an associate's in electrical engineering certificate from Moscow Power Engineering Institute, now the Technical University in Moscow, Russian Federation. Please join me in welcoming Alla.
Please don't judge me so strong.
We're all friends.
Yeah. Okay, it's my pain for 30 years as a survivor of Chernobyl nuclear power plant. From agenda you can see my short or long presentation, what I will explain to you. On September 29, 1966, the USA Council of Ministers endorsed a plan of commission new nuclear power plant generation capacity in 1966 to 1977. Plan provided for constructing a new nuclear power plant that will solve a problem of electricity shortage in the central energy area of integrated southern grid. It was the most expedient, economical and profitable to locate a new NPP in central Ukraine. Chernobyl nuclear power plant was decided to equip it with 1,000 megawatt reactor of the RMK 1000 type, in which graphite was used as a moderator and water as a coolant. The Chernobyl NPP was the USSR's third station after Leningrad and Kursk NPP, equipped with RMK 1000 reactor. Power Generation Unit Number 1, commissioned September 26, 1977. Power Generating Unit Number 2, commissioned November 17, 1978. And Unit Number 3, commissioned December 3, 1981. And Unit Number 4, commissioned December 21, 1983. The construction site of Chernobyl NPP stability town was located south. Oops, sorry. I jumped it, sorry. The construction site of Chernobyl NPP satellite town was located south of the village of Semikhoda. The choice was determined by its proximity to railroad station, railway station, and the location of the river and highway nearby. The history of Pripyat began on February 1st, 1970, when its builders drove the first peg and lighting up the first bucket of the river. Named after the nearly Pripyat river and built two houses, the employees for Chernobyl nuclear power plant 4 kilometers away. It became the ninth nucleus city in the Soviet Union. It was officially proclaimed a city in 1979 and had grown to population around 49,000 before it began evacuation in the day following the nuclear disaster in 1986. Pripyat lies within exclusive zone and remain uninhabited due to the high level of radiation. Construction was declared protection of state importance. Along with being home to the nuclear power plant employees, Pripyat was also a major railroad and river cargo port. It was a young and prosperous city with an average age of population approximately 26 years old. When the incident happened in 1986, the population of Pripyat was over 46,000. It is residents average age 26. More than 1,000 babies were born in the town every year. Every third resident went in the sport. The Chernobyl NPP satellite town was uninhabited by perspectives of over 30 nationalities. The construction of reactor 5 and 6 was underway. The population of the town was planned to shortly reach 80,000. The town had a palace of culture, book house, cinemas, hotels, 4 libraries, art school with concert hall, and complex of medical institutions, secondary schools, a vacation school, 2 stadiums, 3 swimming pools, 10 gyms. There was a federal institute for providing training, special training for constructions. There was a remaining social infrastructure that included consumers and communal services. More than 10 kindergartens and 15 primary schools for about 5,000 children, 1 park, 35 playgrounds, more than 18,000 trees, 250,000 shrubs, and 33,000 roses planted. I can say that it was Rose Town. At 1 hour, 23 minutes, 49 seconds Moscow time on April 26, 1986, the worst ever nuclear disaster occurred at power generation unit number 4 of Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The incident at reactor 4 occurred during an experiment to test a potential safety emergency core cooling future in case of the plant blackout, using and continuing unit turbo generator disconnected from the electrical grid. As a result, the reactor core was destroyed completely and almost all of its supporting structure were severely damaged. And Saturday, April 28, 26, 2 workers died on the night of accident. 28 people died within few weeks after the end of August 1986. Radiation injury to over hundreds. 115,000 people evacuated, 220,000 people relocated, 6,000 cases of throat cancer, large area were contaminated. By character of destructive processes and magnitude of conception, the incident was classified at level 7 on International Nuclear Events Scale. The reactor and this building were destroyed by two powerful explosions. The upper biological shielding of the reactor was turned off and turned 15 degrees to the vertical. All high-pressure pipes were destroyed. Hot graphite blocks, fragments of pipelines and equipment were thrown outside. Most of the debris spilled up on the north wall. Explosion destroyed the separator room, and 4 separators, each weighs 130 tons, were moved from their support and torn off from the pipelines. The roof collapses and hung down the separators. The main circulation pump room on the north side was destroyed completely, and all its equipment was blown outside. Pieces of hot fuel and graphite fell on the roof of the turbine room, causing a fire which destroyed most of the roof. 2 upper floors on the generator stack were destroyed. The framework column were shifted over to the turbine room. The explosion broke the radiation safety barrier and protective shield, which protected the environment from irradiation fuel radionuclide. Radiation emission rate reached millions of curies per day in the period from April 26 to May 6, 1986. Afterward, the radiation level dropped thousands of times and continued gradually. Adjacent territory was contaminated by scattered debris and fragments of fuel elements, piece of graphite stack, and radioactive flaring of structure. The fuel on the roof of the turbine room and generator stack and the building reactor on the building of reactor 3, the metal support of ventilation stack and other structure. During the active phase of accident, radioactive dust finally dispersed fuel elements fell out on the premise of the station, the walls and roof and building. Early radiation measurement near the destroyed reactor on the adjacent territory were stricken. Near the reactor building, the gamma fuel showed 2000 radian per hour. Gamma radiation was basically emitted from the reactor, inside which the dose rate was 50,000 radian per hour. During the summer of 1986, 4 square kilometers of forest around the station died. Crisis of management. Immediately reaction by the Soviet government. Radiation level on site exceeded dosimeter's limit in an intact reactor. All fires were extinguished 5 hours after the accident. Most involvement fire from Get Whole. Perussian later on. Evacuation of Pripyat started only 36 hours after incident. The town was evacuated with 3.5 hours using 1,200 buses. The government only admitted the incident after high radiation level were measured in Sweden. First development in 1996, the government tried to cover up the extent of the disaster, admitted 30 people had died, 600,000 liquidators shoveled most of the debris inside the reactor. The sarcophagus was erected around the reactor by December 1986, and Block 1 and 2, the power plant, were restarted in October 1986. Immediately task of emergency work at reactor 4 were to bring the situation under control and stop radioactive emission and reduce the radiation level at the Chernobyl NPP site. The evacuation of Pripyat. The population of Pripyat at this moment was 49,000 people. They are not immediately evacuated after explosion at the nuclear power plant in early hours on Saturday, April 26, 1986. The majority of people unaware of the explosion and its scale went about their usual business the following day. Wedding were filled, children play outside, and gardener walk on their garden. The most rising from the power plant high radioactive plant was explained away of official as a routine steam discharge. However, within hours the explosion, dozens of the people began to fall ill, later reporting several headache and metallic tests in their mouths, along with uncontrollable coughing and vomiting. A few residents gathered on bringing and rooftop over order to view the burning reactor explosion. In same case, a dozen of radiation that will later prove fatal. In the early hours on Saturday 27th, the first of the over 1,200 buses began to arrive to Pripyat in preparation for a possible evacuation. Trains at the Yanov railway station were also prepared. At the meeting between 10 and noon Sunday morning, the chairman of Government Commission provided the local party and Soviet authorization with the update on the evacuation order of Pripyat was announced. At the same time, the radiation level began to drop, and there was briefly hope that the evacuation will not be necessary. But just 2 hours later, the radiation level rose and what would later be recognized as the highest ever level. Local radio reported the order to evacuation to residents just after 1 p.m. Police began to walk their way from house to house. Residents gathered entered their house at 1:50 p.m. The official evacuation begins at 2 p.m. Evacuation began at 2 p.m. when the first buses and trucks collected the first residents there belonging. The residents of Pripyat were asked to carry with them only a few few days some food, take clothes, extra clothes and their IDs. Dosimeters were confiscated. The evacuation of repeat residents took 6.5 hours and used all 1,200 buses. Residents recall that everyone was in a hurry, but nobody was panicked. No one will.
We're here for you.
It's okay.
No one will believe in Pripyat again. It is estimated that within shelter weighs 200 tons of radioactive corium, 30 tons of contaminated dust, and 16 tons of uranium and plutonium. In 1996, it was considered impossible to repair the sarcophagus as radiation level of radiation level is its way as high as 10,000 Röntgen per hour. Decision of replace the sarcophagus with new safe contaminate was taken as construction on the new structure is now well underway. The sarcophagus that currently is cased in Unit 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant is a giant metal concrete structure, quickly constructed as an emergency measure in 1986 to hold the release of radiation into atmosphere following the explosion. Official Russian name is Objekt Ukrytia, which means shelter or covering. On December 22nd, 1988, Soviet scientists announced that the sarcophagus would only last 20-30 years before required restorative maintenance work. The object shelter was never intended to be permanent containment structure. It is continued. The Deterrent has increased the risk of radiation contaminant leaking out. In 1910, it was relevant that water leaking through the sarcophagus roof was becoming radioactive, contaminated before receiving reactor flow in the soil. This is one of a meeting for 10th anniversary after accident. I was there. Slavutich, in October 2nd, 1986, the USSR government adopted a resolution on constructing a new town for permanent resident of Chernobyl nuclear power plant personnel. 6 months later, a town was founded near a small railway station near Nirma in Chernobyl woodland and named Slavutich. Ukraine's youngest town was built by architects, engineers and construction workers from 8 USSR Republic, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Estonia, Georgia, Latvia, Lithuania, Russia, and Ukraine. Later that year, 1986, the city of Slavutic was constructed 45 kilometers from Pripyat. The permanent personnel of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant and their families evacuated from Pripyat. As of 2005, Slavutic has about 25,000 uninhabited, with the economical and social situation remains closely linked to the decommissioning of power plant and other facilities. Once a year, close to the disaster university, former residents are allowed to return to Pripyat. Current the population of Slavutic 25,112 people. Average age of these residents, who represented 45 nationalities, is 30. Almost 9,000 of them are young, under 18s. Slavutic has a nuclear social infrastructure with a well-developed network of shops, consumer services, and education institutions. The level of medical and communal services is very high. New jobs have been created for laid-off Chernobyl nuclear power plant personnel since the town was granted the status of a special economic zone in 1999. The special regime is to last till 2012. There is a large network of institutions that render essential and entrepreneurs a business development against the Public Council for Municipal Development, Association of Manufacturing and Business Incubators. In recent years, Slavutic has become a major center of international cooperation. The European Commission and G7 experts work in Slavutic on a permanent basis. Various international projects are carried out by U.S. Department of Energy and number of foreign companies. An action plan of solving social problems of the Chernobyl, NPP, and Slavutic, which was developed by joint international effort, offer a strategy for diversity, the town's economy, and ways to create compensation job. The town has 8 kindergartens, 4 secondary schools, lyceum, children protection center, professional development center, foreign game language center, and center of higher education and science, which incorporated and affiliate with some institutes and Kiev Polytechnical Institute, and now it's National Technical University. There are 6 sport complex, jewelry, sport school, stadium, and yacht club. Slavutic can be proud of its world, European, and national championships in self-defended wrestling, judo, chess composition, and sport dancing. The young town is implemented the World Health Organization project Healthy City. The town cultural life is centered in Gerald Art School and Palace of Children's Art, a cinema concert complex and information library center and local TV studio. Slavutic is traditional venue of major cultural artistic events, in particular the International Festival of Jewelry, Art, Television and Press Slavutic Gold Autumn. It's usually employees of Chernobyl nuclear plant used for go to work. Every day after work they check it radiation level of their skin and clothes to go home. Chernobyl nuclear power plant unit number 2 was shut down in 1991, unit 1 number 1 in 1996, and unit number 3 in December 15th, 2000.
Insistent demands from the world community, Ukraine made the hard decision on the preterm closure of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. At 1:17 p.m. December 15, 2000, upon the order of the President of Ukraine, the emergency protection key was turned to stop for good the third Chernobyl reactor. The nuclear power plant stopped generating electricity. Attention control. Stop reactor with key AZ5. Command clear. Stop reactor with key AZ5. Execute. Executing. Attention all. Stopping the reactor with key AZ5. AZ5 mode executed.
All the fuel from Unit 3 was removed in 2010, and in December 2012 it reserved the status of radioactive waste management facility. Work to transfer fuel from Unit 1 and 2 to fifth compartment of ISF-1 started in December 2011 following stress tests that were required following the accident at the Fukushima nuclear power plant when in Japan of March that year. All undamaged used nuclear fuel from Unit 2 was removed by November 30, 2012, while the transfer of undamaged fuel from Unit 1 was transferred the following month. All undamaged fuel from Unit 1 was removed by September 28, 2013. The last damaged used fuel assembly was from Unit 1 to 3 from Chernobyl nuclear power plant was removed June 6, 2016 this year from the cooling pool of Unit 1 and transferred to ISF-1 and wet type internal storage facility. Project implementation phases for new safe confinement. The main goal of the shelter implementation plan is to transform the shelter object onto an environmentally safe system in terms of personal protection, radiological and environmental safety. Phase 1 was from 1998 to middle 2000, the stage of early BW project preparatory works for phase 2, including 2 of 5 emergency stabilization measures, transitional period middle 2000 to beginning of 2001. Summary of early billion project research, adoption and discussion of programmatic milestone. And phase 2 begins in 2001 to 2007. Designing and purchasing of equipment, construction and commission of facility and system. This phase is characterized by the transition of the project to the stage of real implementation of the result of phase 1. This primarily included activity on construction, stabilization, installation and commissioning of monitoring system and integrated database development and testing of SME removal technology, implementation of technical decision on water and dust management, construction of new safe contaminant and dismantling of unstable construction under its inclusive. The full fulfillment of this task is supported by the radiological protection program, technical and fire safety measure and access control. At the time of phase 2 implementation at shelter and GLPP site complex and in cooperation will be carried out, which are technically versatile.
This portion of the presentation covers the new safe confinement conceptual design. This movie was prepared using a 3D CAD model. It presents the current design status prepared by the team of engineers from Bechtel, EDF, Battelle, and the Ukrainian subcontractor KSK. At this time, the conceptual design is complete and the tender and licensing documents are under preparation. The main purpose of the NSC arch is to confine the radioactive materials and limit the rainwater incursion, as well as to initiate deconstruction activities for Unit 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The construction work on site begins with the arch foundation. The foundation work begins in the erection and sliding areas, thus allowing the erection work to begin as soon as the sliding paths are completed. Then the work extends toward Unit 4. The foundation consists of a 3 to 4 meter thick by 18 meter wide concrete pile cap supported by deep concrete walls, shown here in the cross section. The contaminated topsoil layer will be removed prior to construction of the foundations, thus minimizing schedule risk and radiation exposure to workers. As soon as the assembly area is ready, the arch construction work begins. The arch structural elements are pre-assembled in the shop and brought to the assembly area. The elements are as big as possible to minimize the assembly work on site. Some may be 65 meters long and may weigh up to 200 tons. The design team considered the use of a large crane to erect the pre-assembled elements. This was presented in our previous movie of the conceptual design in March of 2003. An alternative method has now been considered, using strand jacks for the erection of the arch. In this method, the arch elements are assembled into large sections on the ground. Each section consists of 3 arch bays. The end sections are pivoted on the foundation support and lifted by the strand jack towers. The middle section is then assembled, lifted by the strand jacks, and connected to the end sections. The strand jack towers are then moved inward to clear the arch. After completion of the first 3 bays by this method and erection of the east wall, the first quarter of the arch is moved eastward. This short sliding clears the erection area, now permitting the erection of the subsequent 3 base sections of the arch. The erection activities shall be conducted as much as possible in the assembly area. That will include the installation of the bridge cranes, end walls, and cladding in the arch structure before the sliding. Once the entire arch is assembled, it is moved over the object shelter. The structure is supported by steel distributing beams, sliding and Teflon bearings. The pulling jacks are located at both far east ends of the sliding paths. A high-precision hydraulic integrated system controls the sliding forces applied on both sliding paths, allowing for a smooth movement. The final sliding is expected to last less than a day. It should also be noted that both the east and west walls are shaped so that they can be moved over Unit 4 with minimal additional work in the final resting place. After full commissioning of the arch, the deconstruction work can begin. The first structures that can be dismantled are the roof's shelter components, the southern panels, southern hockey sticks, the northern hockey sticks, and the eastern hockey sticks. Finally, the dismantling of the main beams takes place. The northern B1 beam, then the southern B1 beam. The deconstruction of the southern B1 beams shows the flexibility of the cranes. Beam B1 South is first lifted from its east-west position and then turned in the north-south direction using the capabilities of the trolleys to move from one bridge to another. Finally, the southern B1 beam is placed in the laydown area in the north-south direction. This flexibility of the cranes allows the rotation of the dismantled elements, thus reducing the arch length by 5 meters. Next, the mammoth beam can be deconstructed. The dismantling of this heaviest beam requires cutting it into 2 sections, which in turn will require an additional support. This video shows a temporary support tower. If this approach is not feasible due to instability of the aerator stack, an additional bridge trolley can be used to provide the middle support. Next, the central hull is removed. Each dismantled structure will, from this point, be processed in the auxiliary storage buildings and eventually stored in the temporary storage designed under the arch. We hope that this video provides you with a clear idea of the work and progress being accomplished currently under the Chernobyl SIP project.
New safe contaminant complex composition, according to its functional of the NSC complex, eventually will compromise 6 different areas, some being actually system and other being components or structure. It's building structure of the system shelter, system of operation control of the encasement, energy supply system, fire extinguisher system, and roof of drainage system. Oops. Thus, accordingly, it is functional of the complex eventually will it's dust suppression system of delivering a neutron absorption mixture, emergency exit for personnel in case of fire emergency situation, or resident, physical protection system, centralized control room, local control panel, integrated automated control system, incorporated in the following prime system: system of control of the conduction of building structure, seismic control system, nuclear safety control system, stationary radiation control system, equipment for remote controls, dismantling of unstable structure and preparation of structure for disposal, facility for processing of unstable structure, and repository or removal storage facility on the excision zone, buffer repository of packages around. Construction of the new safety confinement at the site of Chernobyl nuclear reactor, Ukraine, of the March 23rd, 2016. On April 25th, one day before the 30th anniversary of the incident, the European Commission pledged to the nuclear safety account fund the largest part of the 45 million euro or $51 million donation by the G7 and the Commission in addition to existing support. This fund supports in particular the safe decommissioning of Unit 1 to 3 of the Chernobyl plant, the nuclear safety account managed by London headquarters, European Bank of Reconstruction and Development Fund, the construction of the storage facility for used nuclear fuel from the operation of the plant. Lesson from Chernobyl, a stepping stone for a new philosophy, new term in nuclear energy safety culture. Nuclear power plant is unit of national importance, safety first, priority given to people's safety and preservation of the environment rather than productivity, overhaul of current and future projects with focus on risk minimization, emergency preparedness and safety measures, understand, respect and minimize risk, international and national emergency response system, high involvement of the community, adequate measurement technology in place, NPP community of technology exchanges, WANO, and international science cooperation, construct quality and safety control and measurement, continuous improvement of technology and safety measures, communications is key. Every year, at the April 26th night, residents of Slavutich doesn't sleep. They celebrate this life and died people. And say thank you for sacrifices. Ghost town Pripyat, only for attendance who lived before the April 26 can visit this town. Thank you.
for sharing your personal story with all of us. Here's a token of appreciation from Nirma. Thank you again.